So, are you interested of traveling to Colombia? If you want to know something about it, stay tuned. Welcome to Travel Tip Wednesday. I'm your host, Steven. Today we are actually going to talk about Colombia. Colombia is one of my favorite countries to visit down in South America or in Latin America in general. It's very diverse. People are friendly. It is one of the most amazing countries I ever visited in Latin America. And I visit other Latin America countries, but this one is particularly one of my favorites. Traveling to Colombia as a US citizen, you do not need a visa to travel to Colombia, but you're only allowed to stay for about 90 days when you travel as a tourist. If you spend over 90 days, you actually need some type of visa in order to stay there for a longer period of time. Arriving to Colombia, there's a good chance you're going to arrive to Bogota, El Dorado International Airport. That's where the majority of the international flights around the world travel to Colombia. It's a very modern airport. The last time I was there, it was pretty much brand new. Bogota is the capital of Colombia, is one of the biggest cities in Colombia. And one of my tips when you're traveling to Bogota is bring an umbrella because it rains a lot. Because Bogota is actually very high in the mountains or high in altitude, part of the Andes mountain ridge. It's about, I believe, about 4,000 meters, if I'm not mistaken, about 8,000 feet above sea level. So it gets very cold. The air is very thin and it rains a lot too. But it's actually a great city. It's very multicultural. There's a lot of things to do in Bogota. I see it as the New York of Colombia. As it's the capital, I mean, there's a lot of things to do and it's very big. One of the other major cities of arriving in Colombia is Medellin. Medellin, to me personally, is one of my favorite big cities in Colombia. It has a nickname, La Ciudad de las Eterna Primavera. Translated in English is the city of eternal springs. It's because of the altitude. It's actually half of the altitude from Bogota. It's about 4,000 feet above sea level, if I'm not mistaken. And the temperature and the climate is perfect in the city of Medellin. It's springtime weather the entire year. It doesn't rain as much as Bogota. I saw the city a lot cleaner compared to Bogota. The food is amazing in that region where Medellin is at. The actual people, they call themselves paisas. It's pretty interesting, that region where Medellin is at. Yes, I see some of the hottest women in Colombia in that region. And the other part is the coastal. People are a lot more friendly in that Paisa region, especially Medellin, compared to Bogota. I'm thinking because of the stress of living in a huge city like Bogota. Just like in New York, people are a little bit more mean, but in general, they are very nice. But Medellin is the wow. I mean, you gotta go to Medellin in order to experience like wow. There are actually two airports in Medellin. The main one is actually outside of the city in Rio Negro. It's actually called Jose Maria Cordoba International Airport. It's actually in the city of Rio Negro. Outside of Medellin, it's about 45 minutes away. There's an airport inside the city of Medellin. It's actually called Olaya Herrera Airport. But that airport inside the city is very restricted to small aircrafts, and it's very expensive to travel into that airport inside the city. So the majority of the flights going into Medellin, you have to go to the big airport outside the city. But the good part, even though it's distance from the city, about 45 minutes, 40 to maybe an hour depending on traffic, it's gonna go very quick because traveling from that airport outside of Medellin into the city, there is fantastic scenery. I mean, you're gonna spend your entire time with the camera out, taking pictures, recording, because it's very beautiful. And of course, one thing that I noticed the first time I arrived to Medellin, traveling from that airport in Rio Negro into the city, there's some type of plant, and it's actually a tree that actually emit this great aroma smell. I mean, it is so wonderful, this aroma. very soft. It's like a perfume. It's actually from a tree. I remember one time this taxi driver was telling me about it because I actually smelled it and I asked, hey, what type of plant there is? He actually stopped in on a location and then he told me, oh, grab one of these leaves. And then I actually grabbed the leaf and rub it and smell. Oh boy, one of these aromas are wonderful. The currency that they use in Colombia is actually the Colombian peso. It's about $1 at this moment is almost about three. I'm gonna round it up to 3,000 peso for the US dollar. It may be less. I'm not 100% sure. At the time when you're gonna travel, make sure you check the currency. Colombia is very cheap. The food is very cheap. I could get a big plate of food for lunchtime for maybe $1 or $2, depending on location. Also, a lot of the stores, clothing, it's not that expensive, but it's actually cheaper compared to some other countries in Latin America. I believe there is a big influence because of the free trade agreement with the United States. There's a lot of goods that is actually cheaper. I remember from the first time I went to Colombia to the last time, I've been about 5 times. I saw a major difference how the country was developing from the first time I went to the last time I went. There's a big difference in economic activities. They actually are building roads, infrastructure. There's a lot of American franchises down in Colombia, and there's a lot of investments from US companies into the country, so it's helping out with the economic boom in that country, even though it's not one of the best in Latin America, but there is some type of boom. Also to know about when you're actually traveling to Colombia is the power outlets. They use the type A 110 volts power outlets, just like the United States, Canada, Caribbean. One of my favorite regions as well in Colombia is actually the Caribbean coast. I pretty much traveled the entire Caribbean coast from Cartagena all the way up to Santa Marta. That's pretty much the beach area of the country. I mean, in the Atlantic side, I know there is one in the Pacific side, but I've never been to the Pacific side. Just like in Miami, a lot of tourists, a lot of islands, a lot of beaches. I recommend it. To me, it's one of the most expensive parts of in the Caribbean coast of Colombia because it's very touristy. So if you continue to traveling from Cartagena up, the next major city should be Barranquilla. Barranquilla is one of the major cities in the Caribbean coast of Colombia. There is also a major port in Barranquilla where a lot of the international imports, exports are being held. Barranquilla is a big, nice city. To me, it's the party city of Colombia. People up there, they love to party. They're very nice, and the food is great too. And the last tourist destination in the Caribbean part of Colombia is actually Santa Marta. Santa Marta is actually smaller than Barranquilla. I'm not sure, maybe smaller than Cartagena. I'm not sure. They're probably the same size as Cartagena. Maybe, I'm not 100% sure. But Santa Marta to me is one of the cheapest beach area in the Caribbean coast. As a tourist, it's very cheap. It's cheaper than Cartagena. To me, one of the best beaches in the Caribbean part of Colombia is in Santa Marta. There's actually also a national park, Tayrona National Park. I recommend you to travel to that national park. There's a lot of history in there. I know there's a famous Indian tribe that lives within that park. And there's a few beaches that I visit inside the national park that is very, very beautiful. And I recommend you to visit Tayrona National Park. Best time to travel to Colombia, pretty much the entire year is perfect. The high season in Colombia is actually from December to February because it's actually, for them, it's considered the summer season, and there's no school, they're on summer break, just like the rest of South America. That's when everything is a little bit more expensive for flights to hotel, travel, because it's the high summer season down in Colombia. Even though the other seasons, other months of the year, it's actually pretty warm in our standards, and it's pretty good to visit on the low season as well. there's a good chance it might rain a lot. I still recommend you to travel to Colombia during the slow months. Transportation in Colombia. I mean, if you're actually gonna travel from different cities, I recommend you traveling by airplane, because if you travel by bus, Colombia is actually on the Andes. So you're gonna be zigzagging a lot on the mountains, so you're gonna get motion sickness. Even though traveling by bus is very cheap, but traveling by airplane in Colombia is very cheap as well. It's not expensive like in other Latin America countries, especially Brazil. You could get round trip tickets for less than $200, less than $150 US flying domestically, or maybe for $100 or less, depending on how in advance you purchase the flights. I mean, it's very cheap to travel within Colombia, either by bus or airplane. Just like any country, there's different culture in each region of Colombia. In my case, I have not visited the entire country, but I did visit a lot. I visited from Bogota to the coffee region, all the way up to the Caribbean coast of Colombia, and it has its different cultures. Especially between the two major cities from Medellin and Bogota, there's a big cultural difference, even though the distance is not that far. Food is about different, but very similar. Also, lastly, the people. The people are so great in Colombia. It is amazing. Just like any country, I mean, there is good and bad people, but in general, the Colombians are very good and helpful. Every time when I visit to Colombia, and visit some friends, they're very generous as well, especially with the food. I mean, when you're gonna eat, they're gonna give you a big plate of food. I mean, it is much. The food is amazing. I mean, I love Colombian food, to be honest. Oh boy, la bandeja paisa and la sopa ayaco. Those are my two favorite dishes down in Colombia. And that is it for Travel Tip Wednesday. If there's anything that I missed about Colombia, you could comment down below. And if you want to see more videos like this, just let me know. Remember to subscribe, like, and share this video so you can see more videos like this. Thank you for watching. Until next time, safe travels.